I've had a very interesting career, at least I feel it's been very interesting, and I've been a great fan of sort of, chasing non-linear career paths. My first degree was in computer science, and my first job was, I've never written a piece of code in my life, even though that's what, the degree trained me for. So my first job was IT infrastructure management, and then I left that to move back to my family textile business, and we were manufacturing and exporting socks. After that, I got a master's in industrial engineering, again unrelated, from the University of Cambridge, from which I went into management and strategy consulting, from which I went back to the socks business. To which I ended up launching Pakistan's first and biggest e-commerce platform, which was the Cheetay.pk, and I've been in sort of e-commerce for the last 8 years, and nowadays I keep myself busy with a lot of government work, and we're working a lot on regulation and policy making and trying to figure out how we can grow the ecosystem. So look, when I left the Rocket Internet Group, which was the Raz, Kemo, and all these companies, the two things I realized are required for e-commerce to really flourish in Pakistan. One of them was fulfillment, which is this last mile logistics and all that, and the other is payments. So Cheetay was formed to solve both these problems. So our whole sort of intent was to take a complicated problem which even globally doesn't have the best answers yet, and then in a country like Pakistan, where infrastructure is weak, where markets have not adopted as quickly as other countries, and to take this complicated problem and try to solve it. So our solution is always simple. We throw a lot of technology at it, and we throw a lot of maths and computer science at it. So this is part of one of the mathematical problems we're trying to solve is the traveling salesman problem. It's a 70-year-old problem, right? And in the last 10 odd years, the sort of progress that has been made in solving this problem is great. So we've taken a lot of the existing research, we've built new algorithms, and we've tried to come up with the best sort of operational systems to come and crack this problem. Again, it depends on what are you optimizing. So we're trying to optimize cost and delivery time. So it's a fun problem to crack, and we really enjoy attacking these complicated problems. The answer is fairly simple, right? Once you throw technology at it, all of a sudden you can optimize things, right? So now okay, if a rider has to, you can plan the route. And once you've planned the route, you can figure out how much you need to batch in order to optimize that route. So a lot of these problems are solved by technology, and then a lot of these problems are solved by human intervention, where you need to figure out the best people to take that product. What is the best profile? How do you train them? What user interface you need to give them? What tools do you need to equip them with to be able to do their jobs more efficiently? So yeah, it's been we're fighting a traditional mindset where people are used to doing things in a certain way, and I feel that now we can payments is a huge part of it as well, if you think about it, right? These traditional logistics companies, the payment used to, if it's COD, it used to come after weeks and sometimes months. Now with digital payments that we're integrating, we can within 24 hours settle payments with all stakeholders, whether it's customers, whether it's the companies that are shipping the goods. So yeah, it's the ecosystem is shaping up nicely. Still a little slower than we like, but it's getting there. So again, blockchain is a technology, right? There's nothing stopping us from using it, and we use it whenever it makes sense to use it. So the technology depends on where you have expertise and what you think is the best fit, right? It's always a mixture of the two. So I see blockchain playing a reasonable part in the ecosystem. I'm not a huge fan of cryptocurrency, so I don't know how that's going to shape out. I just don't even follow it. But yeah, other than that, the sort of real-time tracking and GPS and these sort of optimizations. Right now, every time you need to access Google Maps, there's a huge cost to it. So we need to build local maps. So a lot of infrastructure work needs to be done. We're relying too much on work that is being done globally, and which is good, but it becomes very expensive when you want to use it locally. So like I said, a lot of this stuff needs to be developed, and I see companies like TPL and providing map services locally. But yeah, if no one else does it, then we're going to have to do it ourselves. But it's always nice to have people in the ecosystem giving you pieces that you can put together. A lot of things happen by chance, right? So I was never trained or born for this, right? I just happened to be walking down a certain path, and things happened to me. And so I don't know how I've changed. You should ask other people. What I feel, I've sort of added a lot more rigor and structure to the way I think and the way I look at problems and the way I try to solve them. The other thing is I've tried to start. I've started thinking about problems a lot more, doing a lot more research, finding out okay, what is happening in the world, what other people are talking about, how other people are attacking the same problem. But more than that, so I sort of feel the biggest change has been, I've learned how to curb my first instinct of attack, right? So now I have, the minute someone asks me a question, I want to give the first thing that pops into my head, but then I stop and I think about it, and I give it some time, maybe even days thinking about it, think about other things. And sometimes, inspiration just comes to you while sleeping, or as soon as you wake up, you're like, oh, that's my eureka moment. But yeah, if you sort of slow down and you start thinking about things, and you start adding a lot more analytical ability in problem solving, because like you said, there's an instinctive answer, there's an answer you could get from all the experience you've gained, but if you add enough rigor and analysis to it, the answer you come up with should theoretically be much better. Obviously, outcomes are sometimes random, so it's hard to sort of say, okay, oh, you'll always be better off, but more often than not, you'll get the best answer if you have enough analysis and hard work behind what you're trying to solve. So, one of the big mistakes I feel I made at Rocket was I did not invest enough in a middle management. I thought that, okay, they have me at the top and I'll just get a bunch of young graduates, very smart, very hardworking, and, we'll build the company together. The thing I did differently at Cheetay, or tried to, was, right off the bat, get a lot more adults in the room. So now when we sit together, there's not just me, there's a bunch of people who are smarter than I am, who are more hardworking than I am, who have a lot of relevant experience so in their field, and it almost means that I can defer decision making to them, and I can defer implementation to them. Obviously, you want to get involved in everything, and you want to see how things are going, but like I said, the team has a good mix of personality and leadership, in the sense that I'm not the only leader. In fact, I'm not even the CEO anymore, right? So we've hired, one of our board members has come in and taken over as CEO. So I just have a board seat now. So, we're giving it to people who are a lot more capable and, a lot more passionate. Okay, fine. As a founder, you could argue that no one can ever feel as passionate about it as I do, but there are a lot of other things that need solving, and so best man for the best job, and I feel that now our team is at a stage where everyone can literally spin off their individual niches and make full companies on their own. So look, so for me, the biggest challenge has been the market conversion, right? What other players in the market have done is they disrupted it through discounting. It is my literally biggest pain point that I'm trying to attack a market or trying to function in a market where everyone just sees e-commerce as a discount option, and so that still continues to be a challenge. So growing the market in a way where you can actually make some money rather than being negative gross margin. So for Cheetay, day one we decided that we're not going to go negative, right? We will fight the battle in terms of convenience. We will provide convenience, we will provide better value, and we'll provide a better assortment. So that's how we sort of attack this. Obviously, working in Pakistan is a huge challenge. The government keeps talking about ease of doing business. Nothing works. Like VAPTA doesn't work, LESCO doesn't work, the police department doesn't work, FBR doesn't work. Everything is so broken and so corrupt, and it's almost painful to say it. As much as we want to support the government and as much as we want to help, okay, partly it's people's fault as well that they don't want to follow rules. But honestly, if the rules were better implemented, okay, maybe you could argue chicken and egg here, but it's a tough place to work, right? And human resources is a huge pain point for us as well. I grew up with everyone saying कि पाकिस्तान में बड़ा talent है जी, बड़ा talent है, हमारी cricket team का raw talent पे जीतती है. I think times have evolved. The sort of raw talent is no longer relevant. You can take all the talent in the world, but people have just done so much work in refining things that you can no longer just rely on your absolute talent. You need real skills. Matlab, even if you take sports, for example, back in the day, people would teach you certain skills, कि अच्छा swing ऐसे कराते हैं, ऐसे कराते हैं. But now, you have machines and you have, unless you bat a certain amount of balls a day, your muscle memory kicks in. How do you compete with someone who's willing to put in that much amount of time and effort on their fitness, on their skill set, with pure talent? I think with the internet and with things, with technology and science moving so far forward, pure talent is going to lose out a lot. So yeah, so that's been another sort of thing. People just want to show up and they say, oh, matlab, I'm going to just rely on my inherent ability, whereas the sort of work ethic that is essential is missing, and which I think it's more of a cultural problem. Look, when we started 8 years ago, there was nothing, right? We were literally the first. Now, it's very heartening to see that you have VC funds operating, not just registered in Pakistan, but registered elsewhere, investing in Pakistan. You have all these startups who are raising multi-million-dollar rounds locally and internationally. You have all these smart young entrepreneurs who are coming up and who are challenging the way conventional people look at things, and they're attacking or disrupting the way business is being done. So it's very heartening to see, right? You have all these incubators and accelerators and all these experts now and mentors and whatever, who are out there willing to give time pro bono, and help out the ecosystem. We've just had the Prime Minister appoint this head of Digital Pakistan, very fascinating and extremely competent lady who has the absolute right ideas about what the startup ecosystem space needs to be and how to go about building it. So yeah, I'm very excited. Like 2020, despite the economic challenges we face right now, I think the tech, and specifically tech startup scene, is going to explode in 2020, and I think that could be what sort of salvages the economy as well. It's interesting, right? Everyone and their uncle has a view on what the right way to fundraise is and what VCs or what angels want to invest in. The thing you hear most often is, oh, they want to invest in a team and in people and not the idea. It's sort of so hard to generalize. I think you look at a bunch of things, right? You look at the vertical that interests you, you look at the market that interests you, and you look at the team that interests you. And it's some combination of that people want to invest in. Where Pakistan has a huge market, 220 million people, 80 million middle class. It's one of the 6 most populous countries in the world. So the market is there. Different models, all the models are so nascent that you can take any model that has been successful anywhere in the world and invest in it in Pakistan, because there's literally no competition and no one has really taken any of the verticals yet. Then comes the team, and this is where I feel Cheetay sort of really excels, that we picked the right team and sort of the most credible business model out there, and we're trying to solve the problem that, if solved, solves all of e-commerce's problems. So we've been very lucky to have a network and to have the reputation, and obviously the sort of history behind us to to be one of the safer bets. Okay, if you are going to invest in Pakistan and if you are going to invest in e-commerce, this is probably your best option. So that's sort of the image and that's sort of the company that we've created, and obviously our numbers speak for themselves, right? Because at the end of the day, all the amount of sweet talk and is going to come down to, okay, what's your traction, and that is where we've also done really well. So you build a story that, okay, this is what the problem is and this is how I'm going to solve it, and this is how big the problem is, and these are the people that are going to solve it, and so our story is very coherent and I think very interesting. So Cheetay is going to grow fantastically well. We've already, in January we did sort of a mini relaunch. We changed the app, all the UI, UX, we've built algorithms around it, and now we're starting to launch different countries. We've started doing multi-category properly. So we've coined this term called now commerce. So Cheetay is going to be a very, very powerful multi-category now commerce company. we're going to do it in a lot of markets. So there's a lot more automation going on. And the other thing that is interesting is that we've started to spin off ideas. So we've launched Swift, which is more of a traditional parcel company. We're about to do something very interesting in the FMCG distribution space. So yeah, there's a lot more stuff that is happening as a consequence of our core business expanding, and new ideas and sort of new synergies that are being built. And yeah, and the team is going to grow, and we're always looking for talented people, and let's see. I spend a lot of time in mentoring the ecosystem and policy work, and plus at evenings I smoke my shisha. So. Oh, I've been reading a lot. Like 2019 was a big year for reading. I hadn't read in a long time, so I've just finished 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. I've just finished The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. I'm actually looking for Majid is our current CEO and chairman. He's got 2 books there which are Blitzscaling, and I forget which the other one is. So I was thinking of stealing them while he's away, and started reading about blitzscaling. So let's see. That seems interesting. That's a tough one to answer, right? Because I'm a great believer that things pan out the way they're supposed to. I think what I would do differently is everything that where we've reached now, I would have just started with that, right? We've had to evolve and pivot to get here. I would just literally now just take this and start with that. Honestly, I still feel we're lacking in funding, right? We need a lot more capital available, and we need the market to respond. We need consumerism to grow, and for that, the economy needs to grow. No, it's been a fantastic journey. 8 years of doing startups and tech startups in the Pakistan market. When I started, I didn't know anything about anything, and now I talk as if I'm an expert, and I still have a long way to go, because everything is changing, right? The minute you figure something out, something changes, technology changes, some new problem comes up, some new competitor comes up. People start thinking about things a different way, and yeah. So sort of my advice to people is always, you can never rest, right? You need to constantly be evolving and growing. Otherwise, the market leaves you behind. I would love to be an Air Force pilot and ride a heavy bike when I'm on the ground, right? That was the dream as a child.